few months ago, I put up a video about Days Gone 2, and the reception on the channel in this community was insane. You guys were 100% on board for a Days Gone 2 happening. I read every single comment about it, and it was just a ton of positive that people wanted this story to continue. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. And yes, I read every single comment on every single video. If I like it, or I heart it, or I reply, of course I read it. But if I don't, I still read it. You were probably just being mean. But Days Gone 2, I think you and I are on the same page. We want this to happen. Well, today, we're going to talk about everything. The latest leaks, rumors, speculation, how some people say that the project is dead, but there's other things in real time being put out on the internet right now that contradict that. And they make me believe that Days Gone 2 could actually happen. And I'm going to prove that to you later on in this video. Now, we've had years of silence. I mean, Days Gone 1 came out. I would say it was a success. It started to garner a lot of people in the community too. And then we got the remaster for the PS5 and it dropped. Dropped in April. $10 upgrade. Okay, not a bad deal if you ask me. And Ben Studio partnered with Climax and they gave us native 4K, better lighting, all new content. You got DLC, the Broken Road DLC, you had Horde Assault, permadeath, speedruns, all that stuff. It was a success. And it got people talking about Deacon's story even more. And then it got people turning their attention to, hey, we want Deacon's story to continue. Well, as soon as the remaster announcement dropped and then the actual remaster dropped, the community went nuts. On Reddit and social media, fans were saying it's a super strong launch and it should force Sony's hand to go on with Days Gone 2 because up until this point, Sony rejected Ben Studio's Days Gone 2 proposal. We all know that, right? But the remaster, well, it says there is a community here and they would support a sequel. So a lot of people say this should get it back on the table. I fully agree with you, but there's a catch. Behind the scenes, Ben Studio has been in major flux. Earlier this year, Sony canceled their live service project, their AAA brand new IP, and they laid off 30 to 40 people off their staff. That's crazy. And they said that it was a military shooter, live service, AAA, but it's canceled. And then Ben apologized to fans, saying real news would come from them, the studio. And they've said nothing about Days Gone 2 being active. As a matter of fact, veterans of Ben Studios have weighed in. Former creator-director Jeff Ross, who helped make Days Gone, confirmed there was no green light from Sony. Declared never say never, but it's not happening right now. Then co-director John Garvin even revealed that he worked on a sequel script. He worked on concept art. But then he warned us not to expect any updates. Shortly after that, Ben's community manager Kevin McAllister stepped in, I guess to crush hopes even more, saying rumors of a sequel were coming from former devs and that it's time to move on. So in his words, Ben was telling the community, we appreciate you guys, but we're on to other things. Well, stuff changes pretty rapidly. So if Days Gone 2 is officially dead, why are we getting whispers and leaks and rumors in real time right now? Because this is where it gets interesting. Several gaming sites and insiders have hinted that Sony is reconsidering the circumstances. A recent report even speculated that Sony could greenlight Days Gone 2 development soon, as possible as early May 2025. Well, we're obviously past May now, so did they? Are they? The idea? The remaster's reception and Ben's new schedule might open the door. One article argued that with Ben's canceled project clearing everything out and the remaster building excitement, Sony might actually let Ben start working on DG2 again. Now, it's pure conjecture at this moment, but man, the timing, the studio layoffs, the remaster push, the fact that they don't have anything confirmed on their schedule now, come on. All big, bright green arrows point towards Days Gone 2. And if this is something about it's not going to make enough money or something like that, I think we're past that. Days Gone has garnered a huge community. The Days Gone remastered bolstered that community. Days Gone 2 would sell like hotcakes. Now, there's even been whispers of Ben secretly slipping under the radar. For instance, this is a long time ago, but there was a leaked 2020 document suggesting Ben was considering working on either Days Gone 2 or a new Uncharted game. Now, in that leak, Days Gone 2 is literally on the table at Ben's planning stage. I know this is 5 years ago. I mean, whether that went anywhere, it is what it is. The fact is, though, it was internally being talked about way back in the day, so we know that we know that it's on their mind. So there's no concrete proof, but there is a theory out there. that Sony might eye Days Gone as the next-gen launch title. Maybe even a speculative PS6 lineup reveal down the road. It's that type of wild what if, I know, but come on, think about it. If they build up enough hype for this community and they let Ben go ahead and make Days Gone 2, but they give them time to let it cook, and then it ends up being a launch title exclusive for the PS6, I think that's a win-win for all of us. So if we did end up getting it, what would it look like? Well, here's one story. It could pick up at the ending, the cliffhanger, and Deacon and Sarah are reunited, but they're now married and they're trying to find a cure for the Freaker virus. Former director Jeff Ross once said that a sequel would have asked, what happens next, after the apocalypse? In his pitch, Deacon and Sarah did reconcile, but they weren't happy. And all that neurotechnology, well, it has to go somewhere. He even teased something almost Avengers-like, with government remnants and heavy narrative threads, which, that sounds pretty freaking awesome. On the gameplay side, there's lots of things out there. Bigger, smarter Freaker hordes. Imagine 500 plus enemies swarming you at once. Deeper survival crafting. Imagine custom weapons, outpost building, and a fan favorite, co-op modes. Many point out Bend is known for survival, so a co-op Left 4 Dead style horde mode in Days Gone, come on, in the open world, that's a no-brainer. There's another theory out there. What if you could play as Sarah or other survivors at times? Expand the narrative. Now, none of it's confirmed, of course, but with so many ideas floating around and on the table, and even concept mentions of evolved freakers or bleeders in the DLC art, that's confirmed. Anything could be possible in theory. Now, what would the setting be? And what about new factions? Well, Oregon's forests would give way to quarantine cities, maybe new territories. Some fans say we would meet more cults or mercenary groups, or even encounter the source of the outbreak. Again, all notions from fans, but given how deeply fans do care, they're keeping that dream alive. So I think the pitch here and what we're building up here is there's plenty of story to tell, and there's plenty of interest gauged into this to make this a reality. So let's cover what we know. The remaster is real. Obviously, it's in our hands, and they did a good job. Fan hype is real. It jump-started fan excitement. Players on Reddit and Twitter are convinced that strong sales should force Sony to reconsider that sequel. Some even say buy the remaster again if you have to just prove a point. We know about Ben's shift. The studio's current focus, it wasn't Days Gone 2, but Sony canceled their big project, so you're a studio that makes video games. You need to make a video game, right? Now, official stances from Ben's leadership have asked fans to move on. Jeff Ross confirmed the sequel wasn't greenlit. I mean, that's cool, but then if they dropped us a teaser trailer, we'd be all just crazy about it. And of course, theories, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it could be a really, really good game. At the end of the day, we're in wait-and-see mode. The remaster and continued fan demand, they've definitely put Days Gone back in the spotlight. I think big enough for Sony to notice. In the meantime, you've got the new content. You've got the Broken Road DLC mode. You have every excuse to jump back on Deacon's bike. Let me know what you guys think. I'll keep you posted if anything breaks, and I'll see you soon.